This remains an evenly divided country, and no one, to paraphrase William F. Buckley, no one is held hostage to the results of the last election other than what the Constitution tells us. And so we are still a divided nation. And yes, Donald Trump won despite January 6th.
Were Donald Trump to apologize for what took place 4 years ago?
I wouldn't expect Donald Trump would apologize. I think nor do I expect Democrats to apologize for trying to undo his presidency by all legal and extra legal means after that.
Come on, Brad. Come on.
No, Jim, look at our own polling. Look at CNN's own exit polling. Voters who said they voted on democracy were evenly split between Democrats and Republicans. January 6th was a dark day in the history of our country. Donald Trump bears a lot of responsibility for that. It's something that should stain his legacy forever. However, voters, they punished him for it. That's why he was behind Ron DeSantis by 20 points until Alvin Bragg indicted him. And once voters decided that Democrats were determined to prevent Donald Trump from being elected by any extra legal means, they decided maybe this wasn't as clear. I mean, shouldn't you still condemn him months afterward on the floor? Yeah. Nancy Pelosi decided to use January 6th for partisan gain, though. She appointed, she refused to let Kevin McCarthy appoint Republicans to the committee. She didn't let Republicans hire staff to the January 6th Oversight Committee. They didn't allow cross-examination.
The January 6th committee had the Republican of all Republicans, Liz Cheney, on
Liz Cheney
so
she was not
booted out of your party. I mean,
she wasn't appointed by her conference.
Is it how we got here? Is interesting, and you can see the evolution. You can play all the sound bites from the days after when you heard Republicans. Years later, we are here. It is a stunning political comeback attributed to how Trump played it afterward, how Democrats played it afterward, or something else?
Well, I think it's some mixture of everything, but to me, the big message is that in the United States, the people decide. And because of the disastrous 4 years that came after Donald Trump, the people decided to return Donald Trump to power. And that's fundamentally what happened. They looked at what happened on January the 6th. They looked at all the things Democrats claimed about Donald Trump, and they also analyzed every single decision that Joe Biden and Kamala Harris made, and they delivered Donald Trump a convincing victory. The machinery turned. Joe Biden became the president. He had one of the worst terms of any U.S. president, and then the people scrambled back to Donald Trump. That is the history of what happened.
What do we do? I think we need to find moral clarity, you know, in this country. And I just remember after January 6th, you had someone like Mitch McConnell placing the blame on January 6th where it belonged, squarely on Donald Trump's shoulders. And then you started seeing people backtrack that and losing their moral center. You had Condoleezza Rice, I believe, on this very show saying, you know, we need to move on from January 6th. I say no. You don't move on, because January 6th was an atrocity. It was one of the worst moments in American history. And when you think about the worst moments in American history, you know, like World War II, things that happened, you know, like the Holocaust, chattel slavery, we need to never forget, because past becomes prologue if you forget any race.
I want to ask, showing American democracy works, or the nation has short memories?
Short memories. I think that Democrats should go out and Joe Biden should rally on the Mall. I think then we should go in and make sure that we sit on Mike Johnson's desk. We should take the Confederate flag and parade through the Capitol. I think we should injure 140 officers. And then if Kamala Harris dares to certify the vote, we should threaten to hang her. I mean, do you see how, I mean, I think people should understand how ludicrous that sounds. But that's where we were 4 years ago. That is what this incoming president helped usher in. You know, I mean, I look at today, Donald Trump is inheriting one of the best economies that a president has inherited in a very long period of time. If you look at the fact that something like net migration at the border is lower than it was even before Donald Trump took office. If you want to look at the stock market, you're looking at the stock market right now.
I'm not even finished running it down yet.
This is the first time.
The border needs to be secured further, and this number can be accurate.
This is the first time. This is the first time in dozens of years that a president has actually inherited a government where we don't have soldiers overseas in active combat zones. So, I mean, let's actually look at where we are. We actually, or he is actually inheriting a government right now that is much better than any predecessor he's had before.
Okay. I mean, I recognize that was the argument that was made during the election, and I would also like to recognize that the American people soundly rejected that argument. We do have American troops in forward locations all over the world.
Not in combat zones.
But they are in hot spots. I mean,
but not in combat zones.
We just had an American soldier die not too long ago in the Middle East.
Correct. And they're protecting our freedom every day.
Trying to fix Joe Biden's $300 million public relations peer for Gaza. I mean, the reality is migration was a disaster. Immigration was a disaster for 3.5 years. And they tried to window dress it for the last 6 months. Inflation was a disaster for all 4 years. The economy is not working for most people. That's why Democrats lost the election, and that's why they're going back to Trump.
Democrats lost the election. Nobody's arguing that. I mean, that's what the argument was 4 years ago when Donald Trump was filing lawsuits and they were raiding the White House. What we are saying, though, is that prices are going down. What I am saying is murder rates.
Going down.
They actually are going down.
Inflation is still
plateauing.
It is decreasing in rate, which is the entire goal.
But
of
are
the
prices
Federal
going
Reserve.
down or not? Just to be clear. No, they're not.
They are
down
from their sky high rates.
Yeah, actually,
No.
Let's move on. Next up for
we were just arguing over combat zones. I don't know where we are this morning.
You can argue.
You guys are trying to paint a picture of a country that doesn't exist.
I'm not painting anything. I'm painting. Stop talking. That's what I'm painting. Next up.